Hola y bienvenidos. Hello, everyone. We have some folks that are also joining us by Zoom. My name is Veronica Montoya. I'm the HSI Director at Berkeley City College, and we welcome you to our Latinx Heritage Month opening celebration. So we have a few folks that are also on Zoom, and before we get started, I just want to cover a couple of small housekeeping tech items, and it's mainly because we're doing this for the very first time. We're doing an event that is both live here at BCC, and it's also on Zoom. So bienvenidos to all of you who are in Zoom land joining us for our Latinx Heritage Month. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. Welcome again to our opening celebration. Thank you for those of you that are able to join here in person. We appreciate your collective energy kicking off our time today. I'm going to turn this over to our Associate Dean of Student Success, Martín de Muchas Flores.
Yay, Martín! Woo! Welcome, bienvenidos. We're excited to have folks here in the building with us as we open up. And we're also excited to see everyone online. I'm looking at the TV thinking that you all can see me, but we can see each other virtually. So I wanted to start off with our land acknowledgement. If we can bring up that slide, please. It's coming up right now. And part of the reasons why we want to present our land acknowledgement is because that it's important to situate Monday being Indigenous Peoples land, that the land we occupy wasn't always here and belonged to the people who own it present day. That there's a long ancestry, particularly here in the Bay Area of the Ohlone people. And so we acknowledge the land acknowledgement, not just to read it and not just to be a symbolic artifact, but really a call to action. So that way, in every day that we live our lives and that we call out to people, that we are intentional about the way we interact with the land, that we are respectful of the way that we interact with the land, and we do our part to conserve, because too much of our community and society is about how we consume, right? And just the use. But then the question becomes, in terms of our land acknowledgement, in terms of Berkeley City College's land acknowledgement, is about how we plan to give back and how we acknowledge those and the history of those who've come before us. And so I provide that perspective as a way of thinking about how, again, us as community members, as familia, as Latinx people who have an indigenous connection to the land as part of our heritage, continue to honor and respect. And so thank you for allowing me this time to share our land acknowledgement. And it's not up, but you will see it shortly. And then I'll welcome up Vero to the stage again.
Gracias so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and introduce President Angelica Garcia. Dr. Garcia is going to be kicking us off today with our opening celebration. So I'd like to welcome her to the stage. And for all of you on Zoom, please do all your thumbs up and your emoticons.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. It feels both exciting and very weird to be in this format. On behalf of the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees and our interim chancellor, Dr. Jeanette Jackson, I want to welcome each and every one of you. Those of you that are here in person, this feels amazing. And to all of our colegas and community members that are joining us virtually. You know, kicking off this Latino, Latina, Latinx celebration month in some ways is very festive, right? It's an opportunity to come together, to celebrate, to acknowledge, to partake of community and fun stories and food and music and the like. But the other piece that I want to make sure to capture is that it really is also about grounding in our ancestral connections. It's really about acknowledging the shoulders of the giants on which we stand, the roots of our cultural traditions. As an incredibly comprehensive, diverse Latinx population, it's not even just about whether you're from Mexico or Centro America or Salvadoreño, Nicaragüense, right, Cuba. It's so much more. And the reality is also that we are such a comprehensive and connected community. And so there are parts of us that are rooted in this Latino, Latina, Latinx community. So I want to welcome each and every person who identifies as part of the Latinx community, anyone who is an ally and supporter of the Latinx community, and for all of us and those of us who intersection identify with multiple ethnicities, because that's one of the beautiful things of our students and our community. The other piece that I want to just acknowledge and share a little bit, so here, you can't quite see just yet, but we have an altar. And much of the work, I think maybe there's gonna be an attempt to share it, but you know, the altar is one of the components of celebration of lives past, as well as a recognition of future and embracing wisdom and embracing the dichos and the sayings. And so I'm gonna share one little tidbit about Dia de los Muertos. So I grew up in Fresno, California, so I'm a Central Valley girl. I identify as Chicana, and that's something that's really personal to me because my family was part of an agriculture worker movement. And so for me, acknowledging Latinx Heritage Month is interconnected with recognizing our Filipino community, because we were migrant farm workers together. So I often feel like you can't celebrate one culture or community's effort without the other. I'm acknowledging, especially with Dia de los Muertos, this past couple of years and the unfortunate loss of Black lives and the connection that we have as community. So our altar here at Berkeley City College is one that if you are gonna be visiting campus, we invite you to bring your photos of loved ones. And a component that's even more sobering right now is that some of us have lost family members and loved ones because of COVID-19. And we have had to say goodbye to people maybe sooner than we wanted to. We have had to hold memorial parties and celebrations of life sooner than we wanted to. And as someone who, in my family, we lost 3 family members over the past year and a half due to COVID-19, it's something that's very personal. It's not a policy mandate. It's not a debate about facts or science. And honestly, I don't even want to get into personal debates on one's personal position around what has been the evolution of COVID-19 and its impact on our community, especially Black and brown communities. What I'd like to do is invite you to think about just accepting the truth that some of our community members are experiencing right now. And instead of debating it, hearing one another as family members, hearing one another as community members, and engaging from that space of love, care, and concern. And for our Dia de los Muertos altar, so my family started to put our altar together, and I have a 6-year-old who's in 1st grade and an 11-year-old who is in middle school, who's in 6th grade. And, so 1st grade and 6th grade, sorry. So as we were talking this past weekend about putting our altar together, my little one, Eliana, apparently volunteered me to her teacher to come in and do a Dia de los Muertos lesson. So now we're gonna be doing that. And one of the things that we were talking about, that it's not about the commercialization, and so I think this is one thing to think about for Latinx Heritage Month, it's how do we really embrace community and our cultural roots and not let the, what often is Americanized version of our communities control the story. And so I've accepted my daughter Eliana's invitation to come to her class. And so we're gonna co-create that together about what that means to share about our traditions. And especially because we have some new family members who photos have now made it to our altar. And so there's something really personal about that. And then on the broader sense of our Latinx event, we have a lot of events this week. I really want to thank our Berkeley City College team of administrators and faculty and staff and students. Thank you so much. I looking forward to the events this week. I hope that you're able to join. And again, BCC, we are so ready to have us all back here in a safe and healthy way. But just know, for those of you that are joining us via Zoom, les mandamos un abrazo, a virtual hug from across the room. Had a lot of elbow bumps with people in this room already. And just know that our community is vibrant. One of our family sayings is brown is beautiful. So what I'm going to invite you is to just remember that. Brown is beautiful, and we're so grateful to be sharing as a community. So enjoy the events, and thank you so much.
Thank you, President Garcia. Yes, brown is beautiful. One thing we want to just acknowledge here is, just as we're moving through the events, we just want to acknowledge so many that were part of the planning process. I just want to do an agradecimiento, a thank you to all of those. We also wanted to be very aware of inviting the community into our space. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Juanita Chavez, who's going to be leading us in a blessing, a ceremonia. And so for those of you that are here, just join me in welcoming her. Open your hearts and your spirits to her this morning as we open up this time for our Latinx Heritage Month.
Thank you for having me today. I'd like to ask Angelica to come back up. And I'd like to invite Vero to come up. This is a community celebration. This is a community ceremony, so I'm going to ask for some assistance. This is a salmador. Inside here very lightly, trying to be very conscious because we're indoors. Is copal and carbon, and it is carrying messages to the ancestors. It's also spiritually cleansing. I don't share this with a lot of people, so please, oh my God. Okay, we are getting ready to do the 4 directions, acknowledging the different energies, and then we'll come back and honor the center. This is a drum that my father was gifted from San Diego. I'd like to say his name, Agustin Silvas Chavez. He passed away 3 years ago, and so his spirit is here with us. And so he's going to do that, and it's going to just do something. And then you are in the center because you're carrying the smoke. And then I would like to ask everybody who's here to please stand up. Everybody at home, please stand up if you have the ability to do that. And then let's all turn and face in the direction of the east where the sun rises. So that would be there. That one. But this time we're going to acknowledge and send energy to the spirit of the sun, the spirit of a new day, the spirit of a new chance, a new challenge, a new obstacle that we overcome. We want to send energy to our fathers, our grandfathers, our sons, our nephews, our brothers. Think about one of them who have passed away and send them some energy right now. Who in your family needs energy that's a male identifying person? We're going to think about women. We're going to think about And then one full circle to the right. And then put your hands up. And those of you who are have access, go ahead and touch the ground. Thank you, Creator. Thank you for another day of life. Thank you for this moment. We acknowledge the sky. We acknowledge the fire that's in the sky. We acknowledge the earth and the fire that's inside of the earth. We acknowledge the water and the air that we breathe. Thank you 1, 2, 3 times. Gracias, gran creador. Gracias, grandes abuelos y abuelas. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Thank you. In the center, we also take a moment to acknowledge the spirit of folks who are two-spirited, since we acknowledge, the male energy and the female energy. In the center, we acknowledge that connection that we have from the ground to the sky, and we acknowledge that duality, that two-spirited. So here we go. Thank you to the center energy, the sky and the earth. To take a moment to thank you for the land acknowledgement. I also wanted to recognize the Ohlone people who are not somebody from the past, but they're people who live here today. They're people who are standing up for the Shell Mound and their sacred grounds right here in Berkeley, Huichin Ohlone territory. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Also wanted to acknowledge the idea, since I know a lot of you, especially on Zoom and in the room, you're thinkers and scholars and, critical minds and all that. Wanted to invite you to consider Indigenous Peoples Day is every day. Esta tierra antes era tierra sin otra gente. This is, this sacred land that before, just like other territories, did not have that colonization. And while me personally, I am appreciative that we have a day that we're honored and, all of this. And I know that people struggle to have this day, especially in Berkeley. It is critical and important that we continue to have this mind and question, why we're not recognized on a more daily basis. Why before, was it when it was Columbus Day, it was no school. And then once it became Indigenous Peoples Day, the kids had to protest to get the day off. And so now it's not a holiday anymore, it's a staff development day. So just things like that, I want to raise awareness so that we keep that in mind, because Berkeley is critical to those kinds of changes. When it happens here, it starts spreading all across the rest of the land. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to recognize that this land has sacred medicine on it, and it's not something that you have to pay for. Spirituality is not something that you go and give charge to somebody else of. We are all our greatest curanderas and curanderos. That means a healer. And so with that, I wanted to, let's see, how many do I have here? I have 4, 5. So I'd like to invite you to come up. So I'm going to show you guys, at home especially, something that you can do to help yourself, to clean your energy. The plants that we have here, can you guys smell it? Can anyone guess what it is? Rosemary? Lavender. Huh? Lavender. Lavender. Anything else? Any real good gardeners?
Lilac?
No? No? In Spanish, it's called ruda. Ruda, and that's this one. So rub that one and smell it. And so today, one of my role, I'm a danzante. As you can see, this is my atuendo, my regalia. But I'm also an ahki, which is a keeper of time, a spiritual guide, a curandera, a healer in the Mayan tradition. And so I keep track of the calendar, and I counsel people when they come into issues, taking consideration the energies that were present when they were conceived, when they were born, and when their parents were conceived, and when their parents were born, and when are they having problems, in the calendar, what kind of day is it? And so I wanted to share, because today is the day of knowledge. Today is number 10, no, N-O-J, in the Cachiquel language. And that is no, that's the brain, that's learning, that's reading, that's memory. On this day, we pray for people who have dementia. Hold your two hands. So I'm going to come around, just hold it like this. We pray for people who have dementia. We pray for students. And pray meaning sending them energy. You can pick this from your garden. You can ask your neighbor to have a little bit of their herbs, sage, anything, a rose, anything that's natural is connected to the earth. And you really don't need anything. You have fire right here in your heart, and the earth is right here on the ground. So all you need to do is use those knee joints, bend down, and say thank you. So this is an example of a limpia. So that means cleansing in Spanish. And we're going to use this, thank the plant, thank life, because we have life just like this plant. And then we're going to consider the different joints, articulations in our bodies. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're going to go and we're going to make sure that we clean off each of those areas. Clean them off. And then clean off all these areas. When you get to your hands, out. Get out. Each of your fingers. The other side. I just wanted to show this because it's a simple thing that you can do. Clean your energy. Your joints is where energy comes together. And this is like a protection, healing on those joints. Sorry, Berkeley City College, we're giving you a little limpia here on the ground. So students, when you come back, come rub your feet on this ground to get a little clean if you want. And then when you get to your feet, go out. And if we hadn't done a limpia, I would be inviting you to take that home. But because that has energy that we wanted to take out of you, I'm going to invite you to put it back in the basket, and I'll be offering it to fire later, if that's okay. If you really want to keep it and you want to bury it yourself, you're welcome to do that as well. So thank you for participating, and take a final breath before you do that. Let's do it 2 more times. Everybody. And one last time. Oh, thank you. The last point that I wanted to make before we stand up and do the 4 directions directions again is the energy of happiness, the energy of laughter. I was at an Indigenous Peoples Day presentation for Clínica de la Raza in Oakland, and my co-panelist was a hoot. She had us all laughing and laughing and laughing, and it reminded me so much of my father because he's a big jokester. And we were talking about medicine, and we talked about how medicine is also laughter. That's a big medicine. In Native American culture, my cultura is also Chickasaw and Yaqui. And so in those traditions, we have the coyote, who's the trickster, and has a function. In danza, we have certain people who dress up and they go around and they kind of like distract you while you're dancing. There's a purpose for that. It's energy that's throwing you off, or it's lifting you up, or it's reminding you to stop and smell the roses. And I was laughing because people want that medicine, and you know that it's medicine when people start paying big money for it. And I was laughing at myself because I'm into yoga, and one of the types of yoga is laughter yoga. And so I said to myself, you know that it's big medicine when people start paying for it. And that's what's been, I've been seeing that a lot lately, and with COVID, stuff like cuddle therapy and things like that. And so just a reminder to stay connected to your heart, yourself, laugh on your own, laugh at yourself, tell yourself a joke. So con eso, muchas gracias. Is it time? Around time? Gracias. I'd like to invite you back up, and I'd like to invite you back up. I'm not going to do the explanation this time because I did it the first time, and we're just going to think in our minds about those different directions, because today's the day of knowledge, so I imagine that some of that may have stuck with you, hopefully. So we're going to go east, direction of red men, sun, west, direction of women, ocean, darkness, the moon, north, elders, south, children, and then the center, yourself, and the earth, and the sky. With that, thank you very much. I acknowledge my ancestors, especially my father, my Uncle Victor Gavilan, the ancestors of this land, and I honor my teachers, my jefa, Cristina Mariscal, my dance group, Tanzacualconan, my teacher, Don Pascual Garzon. Thank you to each and every one of you who took the time, and each and every one of you on Zoom. I know that you're right there, but I see you right there, so thank you for coming and being part of this, and do continue to question and participate in this, and if anyone has questions for me, I'm available to you, the community. Oh my God.
With that, we're going to make a small transition over to Zoom, and I'd like to invite Dr. Naomi Quinones, who's going to be leading us in some additional healing. I think one of the things we wanted to just touch on a lot today is just how much we have gone through over the last year and a half, and just give our community, our school, ourselves the permission to really take some time to heal. So with that, I'm going to transition us over to Dr. Quinones, who's going to join us by Zoom.
So thank you so much for the beautiful medicine that was just shared with us. And also I'm honored to be here. My name is Dr. Naomi Quinones, and I'm so honored to be here as part of Berkeley City College's Indigenous Peoples Day Latinx celebration. I would just have a brief poem that I'd like to share, that because our medicine people who just came on did so much to spread the knowledge of the four directions and the importance of our indigenous connection to the earth. So this is a tribute to the Ohlone people of this area, which was just mentioned. This land has the medicine of the people who are here for thousands and thousands of years. Miwak, Muwekma, Cocheño, Karkin, Ramatush, Yokuts. Do not ask what happened to the Ohlone people. Do not ask, because they are here, alive, thriving, like the tule reeds along the bay rivers and streams, strong enough to survive the genocides and enslavements, supple enough to hold fast to their traditions and ancient ways. For 10,000 years, the Ohlone First People of the West thrived on 91 million acres of land between San Francisco and Big Sur, between the Pacific Ocean and Mount Diablo, until it was stolen by the whites in less than 20 years. Once, over 100 Ohlone villages flourished around the mission: Abmoktak, Coraskin, Flunmuda, Malvatik, Limos. Do not ask what happened to the people, as if they disappeared like the streams and open fields, the deer and the bear that once thrived around the mission and were destroyed. Do not ask, because the Ohlone are here and now. They have reclaimed their hearts and their histories. Their ceremonies and prayers bless all humanity. Their wisdom is tethered to the music of rattles and drums. Their songs continue to echo in the winds that blow across golden hilltops. Truth is history. Water, Ramah, is the blood of the earth. Respect the land. Respect the earth. Respect the air. Respect the people. Do not ask what happened to the Ohlone people. They are here in spirit and memory. They are here in flesh and song. The ancestors are waking everyone up to the truth that the Ohlone people never vanished. They are here, alive, and they have so much to teach us. They have so much to teach us about being human. And I was prepared to, on Indigenous People Day, let us think about all of the people who were here before the coming of the white man, and celebrate the gifts and contributions of people across the Americas who for over 20,000 years peopled this land and were able to thrive in balance with the earth. So before I read this little last 4 directions, I would just like to mention that now that we have so many problems with our environment, our water is drying, and it's contaminated. The earth has been plundered and contaminated. The air is being contaminated. And of course, now we have, fires, the volcanoes are exploding. We have a solar flare today that could possibly knock out a lot of our satellite machines out there in space. So our ancestors knew that the importance of balance in our earth was based on the respect for earth, wind, water, and fire. And that is always part of the connection of first people of the Americas. And also the North, the South, and East and West, that we exist across space and time. And a complex idea, but one that our ancestors knew very well. So I'd like to end with this. Spirit of the East, carry our prayers to the universe. Bring us wisdom on your wings. Spirit of the South, ignite our red flame passion. Fuel our desire for justice and love. Spirit of the West, slack our thirst for knowledge. Refresh our spirits with cleansing waters. Spirit of the North, Nuestra Madre Tierra, we honor you. Press our foreheads to the earth and take in your energy. Spirit of the Center, we are all connected. We are all connected to the humans, to the animals, to the plants, to the minerals, and we honor and cherish all that is part of us. Earth, water, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Rafael Gonzalez, who will talk to us about the altar, the significance of the altar, the history of the altar, and let's see what other pearls of wisdom he has to share with us. Rafael.
Gracias, Naomi. Que el nombre es Rafael Jesús González, su servidor. Buenas tardes a todos y es un placer estar con ustedes. Bueno, imaginando que todos hablamos aquí el idioma del imperio, hablemos en inglés entonces para que todos entiendan, ¿no? Good afternoon, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be virtually with you today and talk about the tradition of the altars of Mexico. We must first of all realize that altars and the building of altars in the places that we inhabit goes back from the very, very beginning of the human race. And it was so throughout history. The ancient Hebrews had their home altars in which they had their household gods, the teraphim. And in the Greek and Roman Empire, the home altars of the lares. And I dare say that very few of us, Mexicanos, Chicanos, Latinos, didn't grow up without a home altar in our home. The altars of the Days of the Dead go back to pre-Hispanic times, where the celebration of the dead was a month-long celebration. That it began around what in our calendar, around the middle of August. And the people of the towns and of the cities would go out to the forest and chop down the tallest, straightest tree that they could find. And with great ceremony, they would bring it to the center of the city and erect it. And they would begin the feast of what was known the Little Feast of the Dead. And that was to honor the dead children of the community. And throughout that month, there would be ceremonies and dances and decoration of the altars. And sometime around the middle of September, it would culminate in the great feast of the dead. And then the young men of the noble class, the young nobles, would climb up the tree or this long pole that represented the tree of life. And at the summit was a bird made out of amaranth dough, decorated with feathers. And they would bring down, and whoever reached the top of the pole and brought down the tree first was greatly honored. Then that bird of amaranth dough would be broken into crumbs and passed out among all the people in what is very reminiscent of the tradition of the communion in Christianity. For they said that ingesting this, the amaranth dough of this thing, was to take in the flesh of the gods. The altars themselves were decorated with certain elements that did not, that were passed on. Let me mention in passing that I was born and raised right on the US-Mexican border, and that I'm heir to 2 languages and 2 muses who speak different languages, but always speak to me simultaneously. So I will share with you a poem about the elements that constitute the altar. Y con su permiso de ustedes, el corazón de la muerte ofrenda a los difuntos, al modo náhuatl. Le hacemos, formamos el corazón a la muerte. De flores amarillas, del cepualzóchitl, de agua clara, consuelo de la sed, de pan, de maíz, de trigo, nuestro sustento, de comida y bebida, de nuestro alimento que da deleite al paladar, de luz que alumbra el camino, anhelo de mariposas nocturnas, de calaveras de azúcar, de calaveras dulces como la vida fugaz, de copal, de incienso, humo perfumado que invoca a los dioses, de flor y canto, le hacemos el corazón a la muerte. The heart of death, offering to the dead in the Nawa mode. We form the heart of death, of flowers, of yellow flowers, of marigolds, of water, of clear water, comfort of thirst, of bread, of corn, of wheat, our sustenance, of food and drink, of our nutrition, the gifts, the palate delight, of light that shows the way, desire of night moths, of sugar skulls, of candy skulls, sweet as fleeting life, of incense of copal, perfume smoke that invokes the gods, of flower and song we make the heart of death. It is especially significant to us who are now seeing each other virtually when we should be ringing our altars, because we are living in great times of death, and for many of us, we have lost loved ones to the plague. But death has always been a part of life, and we cannot divorce it from it. And our ancestors, the high cultures of the Mexico, Guatemala, and further south throughout Mesoamerica, very wisely, like many other cultures, set aside these dates to celebrate the dead and put upon their altars what was significant to the living, for they are also to the dead. One of the things, of course, is primarily flowers. Anthropologists, whenever they do diggings that are very old, but one of the first things they look for is pollen in that earth, because that's an indication of humanity. We are the only animal that we know that buries our dead with flowers, which are the symbols of life and generation and the beauty of life. Of particular significance to the Nahuas and to this very day is a cempasúchil, which in English we know as the marigold. And in many parts of Mexico, it's just simply known as the flower of the dead. And that's the flower that has been held sacred, especially to the dead. It was a seasonal flower, perhaps, of that time, but marigolds and the color yellow was associated with death with the ancient Nahua cultures and the Maya cultures as well. We'll just talk about the Mesoamerican cultures in the broadest terms of the word. One of the essence, too, is water. Because, of course, water is the essence of life. We are living on the water planet, and water was where we came from. Water is the very source of our being. In our veins runs seawater with the same salt content as the oceans from which we emerged. So water is holy to life, and it was offered in honor of the dead who gave us life. Close to that is that sustenance that we have. What keeps us alive, our food, primarily to the Mesoamerican people, was the holy corn and maize, cently. There was actually a food that was invented by the ancient Mayas millenniums and millenniums and millenniums ago. So that was placed upon the altar as an offering to the dead. Later, when the Spaniards came and the customs merged in some, there began to be made during the colonial period what we know as pan de muertos. It's a custom brought from Spain, who also honored their own Day of the Dead, set at the end of October, the beginning of November. It's interesting to pause here for a little bit, because that honoring of those feast days of the 1st and 2nd of November, el Día de los Muertos y la víspera del Día de los Muertos, was actually a Celtic custom that predated Christianity. To the ancient Celts of Europe, the 1st of November was their new year. Samhain, they called it. And they celebrated the dead at that time. It was such a popular feast. It was so ingrained to the culture that the Christian church could not get rid of that custom. So what they did is they set All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day on those days, and so incorporated the Celtic feasts of the dead and New Year into Christianity. And when Christianity was imposed upon our peoples of the Americas, then very wisely the people of the Americas accommodated and set the Dia de los Muertos celebrations to coincide with the Christian feast, so that its history goes long many, many years, centuries, in fact. Upon the altar was also placed other foods, especially those foods that the dead that they were honoring were particularly fond of. So you go to Mexico and you have on the altars feasts laid out on the altars of the dead, the delicious moles of Oaxaca and of Puebla, tamales, capirotada, whatever those foods they liked. And they form part of the altar and the offerings. Always there was lights upon the altar, candles particularly. It was because we're diurnal creatures, and light to us is sacred. The dark is fearful because we're most vulnerable to the beasts of the night, the jaguars and those and these. So that light is sacred to us. And always there was light upon the altar. It was said, or the belief came, that the souls of the dead would come back on those nights to visit with the living, and often take the form of moths or of butterflies. And moths and butterflies, we know, are attracted to the light. So the light was put in the belief that it would show the way of the souls to visit with the living. At the end of the colonial period, there was another element that began to be appearing on the dock.
Rafa, I'm sorry, but we ran out of time. Thank you so much for your
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a long story, so I'll leave you with that. Thank you so very much, and many blessings, and may you commune with the dead. Enjoy.
So we'd just like to thank everyone for joining us, for being part of our opening celebration. We continue to invite you to all the events this week. Thank you to the ancestors for joining us in our time. Ancestors, may you join us the rest of this week as we celebrate our Latinx Heritage Week, our Heritage Month, the remainder of this week. Just a couple of announcements. We touched on it a little bit. Vaccinations have been very important for our community. We're going to be speaking more about the Flex Your Vax campaign. We wanted to just highlight it briefly here today. We know vaccinations have been important. I know vaccinations for me personally have opened up the way for me to be with my family, my grandmother. So please, if you have not yet been vaccinated, please consider doing so. We also wanted to acknowledge 2 artists who submitted work as part of our Latinx Heritage Month. I wanted to acknowledge Dest Acevedo Buendia and his art piece that he shared with us as a gift to us called Herencia. And I'd also like to acknowledge Nash Gutierrez, who also submitted another piece called American Dream, and in it she shares a little bit about what that means for us and what that means for our culture. And so I just want to acknowledge our 2 artists who joined us. And then last but definitely not least, definitely join us on Thursday. We'll have some more poetry, and also tomorrow we have a panel with 4 amazing mujeres. We have Locatora Radio with Mala Muñoz and Diosa Fem, who will be joining us. We also have Saraí Espinosa Salamanca from Dreamers Roadmap, and we also will have Dora Lopez, who is a fat Chicana feminist. She runs an Instagram website. So we're going to have some great mujeres joining us. The rest of the weeks, the events this week will be virtual, but please drop in, stop by. The panel tomorrow, the poetry on Thursday. We have some Joteria Loteria that we will be playing on Thursday evening just to have some community and some games. So please stop in. We appreciate all of you, ancestors. We appreciate you for joining us. Thank you all who joined by Zoom. Thank you for those of you who are here. If you are here, we have pan dulce. Please take some with you.